We have several solutions that we're implementing in Marlin ISD. The first is adherence to the district's curriculum, which is TEAC's resource system. And that is a curriculum that's aligned to state standards, meaning that if you teach the curriculum that the district has adopted, then the kids should be learning what they need to know to pass a state test. Before, use of that curriculum has been somewhat, some people used it, some people didn't. And so now that's mandatory. The second thing we're concentrating on is improving the quality of instruction in the classroom. We have a lot of great teachers in Marlin, but we have also a lot of new teachers and a lot of what we call alternatively certified teachers who are brand new to the field. We have teachers who haven't been teaching very long. So we have a whole lot of, I know everybody is aware of the turnover rate in Marlin. So we end up with a lot of very new teachers that we have to have professional development with. That's another part of our strategy, is we have a coordinated professional development where the teachers actually have to demonstrate proficiency on the things that we've identified that they need to work on. Also, we have a system of short tests every 3 weeks. We call them curriculum-based assessments, CBAs. Those are 8 to 10 questions. The test, did the child actually learn what we were teaching the last 3 weeks? And then we have interventions in place if the child didn't learn. We do things to make sure that happens. So that's the core. Of course, we also spend a lot of time in classrooms. Principals, directors, superintendents, all do classroom walkthroughs daily. So far, we've probably done close to 2,000 classroom visits in the district since the beginning of the school year. All this started on day one of school. Actually, it started before the day one of school with training in the summer. We also have what we call a level literacy intervention. That's new. We spent almost $100,000 on textbooks, reading books, so that the children have what we call level literacy in the classrooms. So we're consistent of how we teach reading in grades K through 8. So those are all new initiatives that just came this year to Marlin.
So far, how do you see those initiatives being effective? Are we making progress? Are you seeing any progress with the students? So what type of results are you seeing so far as a result of making those initiatives?
Well, I mean, I think the number one thing that you notice is that classroom instruction is really improved since day one of school. We have some, like I said, we have some great teachers, veteran teachers, who are doing a great job. But we have a lot of, let's say, young teachers that just, they need more coaching. And we're seeing a big improvement in classroom instruction already. And once that classroom instruction gets to where it needs to be, and the learning gets to where it needs to be, the problems go away. It is so good now that when Representative Cassell was here, I walked him around to 3rd and 4th grade. And he looked into the classrooms and talked to those kids, and he said, "This looks like any other 3rd or 4th grade class I've ever seen." This myth that these kids are out of control in Marlin, it's just not so. There was some classroom management issues, because the teachers turnover and the young teachers. But some teachers did a fantastic job, and most teachers are doing a pretty darn good job now. I invite anybody to come and walk through these classrooms with me, any grade level you want to see, and there's always going to be a knucklehead here or there. But for the most part, you're going to see that these classrooms are orderly and teaching's going on, and it's going to be good instruction.
Good. What type of program or initiative or solution do you have in place to help the young teachers get up to par and get them to the level where they need to be to teach the kids what they need to know?
Sure. A program for our younger teachers, beginning teachers, the ones who need the help. It starts with the walkthroughs. And that's why you have to see instruction. You got to know what the problem is and see what it looks like. And then after that, every Tuesday we have I know the lower campus have Team Tuesday, where they get together and they talk about what instruction looks like and how it needs to be. We also have one-on-one professional development with director of curriculum instruction or curriculum director or principal, whoever it needs to be, to coach them along on what they need to do to improve. And I can tell you this. Virtually every teacher in the district is working hard to do what we ask them to do, and that's why they're getting better. That's why instruction is getting better. I mean, I am a person of accountability. I mean, I think that the school system is accountable for the outcomes of these children, and I promise you that's the way that the TEA sees it. The commissioner is making a decision on this district, and it's going to be based upon what kind of job do the educators do on getting these children educated. That's our job. And notice I didn't say teachers. I didn't say teachers in my statements the other night. I said educators. And it starts at this chair. It starts with the superintendent, and you got to set a tone. By law, the superintendent is the chief academic officer of any school district. So I'm the chief academic officer of Marlin ISD. If I'm not holding principals accountable for the outcomes of what goes on in those classrooms, and also giving them solutions. You've got to give them professional development. You have to do both. You have to say, we're accountable for the outcomes of these students, but here are some tools to how to get better. And I expect the principals then to do the same thing with the teachers. And so it's everybody in the system. It's everybody from the superintendent to the to the aides, all of what I call the educators, the people who have direct contact with these children. It's our jobs. And I promise you, that's the way the state sees it. The state does not see this as failure of a community. It sees it as failure of a school system. And, you got to own that problem. I would be doing the district, I would be doing the community a disservice. It'd be the same thing. If I knew if I was a doctor and I knew you had a brain tumor, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings, and so I just said, oh, there's some headaches. Here's an Advil, go home. You got to call the problem out. You've got to identify the problem before you can fix the problem. And, we got to be willing to do that, even if it's painful, even if it hurts, even if it's, it's brain cancer. Okay, well, let's fix that. We know that the problem is in instruction. We know that's caused by lack of leadership from the superintendent, and it trickles all the way down to the principals and then to the classroom. And that's got to stop. It will stop. It has stopped. I think our principals and our teachers are performing much better than what I saw. I saw them in May. Well, before I started here, I actually had an opportunity to visit Marlin ISD, and I visited all the campuses. And looking at what instruction looks like now into the beginning of the year, and then it's night and day. One, you got some great principals here. You had no principal at the high school basically starting in January of last year. The principal at the middle school is now gone. It was totally ineffective there. And so, and you have one constant principal, but they're all on board. I think they understand the program and they're getting better at it. And as they see that this system is actually working, the classroom management actually gets better when instruction gets better, and I think they're seeing that, and they're a lot better. Everybody is doing a better job. They're working as hard as they can, and they're getting better as fast as they can.
Could you elaborate a little more on the curriculum that you talked about that you have in place, and how effective do you think the curriculum will be as far as, getting everyone on the same level and making sure that, they know what they need to know?
Yeah, the curriculum and the effectiveness of our curriculum is TEKS resource system. TEKS are Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and that's set by the State Board of Education, and that's where the state tests are going to come from. And TEKS resource system, TRS, is a very common curriculum used in the state of Texas, and if you actually use it with fidelity, stick to it and teach it in the order it's supposed to be taught, then you'll be fine. Your kids are going to learn what they need to know to pass those state tests. So that's key number one, is you got to have a curriculum aligned to what the state is going to actually, test. Do I think it's a shame that we're kind of teaching to a test? Sure, but that's the game. If we don't pass these tests, they shut your school down. And I promise you, they're not bluffing. So TEKS resource system, TRS, it's aligned to state standards, and we have to teach it.
Is this a curriculum that we had in place previously before you got here? Or what type of curriculum, or if any, did we have in place previously?
No, you had TEKS resource system in place. It was just sporadically used. Some people used it, some people didn't. And so, unless it's a mandate that this is mandatory, we have to use TEKS resource system. And some, there's a lot of people that don't like that. There's a lot of people that are like, I don't like TEKS resource system. I don't want to teach it. And I understand that, but I also understand that if we don't teach what's aligned to those state tests, we're sunk. And people think I understand. I'm all about accountability. That's step one of accountability, is teach the curriculum. Some people might call that bullying. Some people might call that too hard. I don't know what you call it, but what I call it is leadership. It's leadership saying that we're accountable for these children. We're accountable for their test scores, and so we're all going to be held accountable for making that happen, and that includes teaching the curriculum.
Right. So the community would like to know, where do we go from here? What's next? Everybody is just on edge, want to know, is our school going to close? So what is the steps, what are the process in getting to that point of knowing what's going to happen next with our school district?
I think that's the hard part right now, is the unknown of what is going to happen with Marlin ISD and what is the process. And, I've never been through this process before. Very few people have. And so this is an experience. I do know that we've applied for an appeal. It's called an informal review with the commissioner. And I'm sure we'll get that informal review. I'm sure somebody from TEA will visit Marlin ISD. And I feel pretty confident we're going to be given time this school year to get to make, the improvements that we need to make. The plan that I have put in place is solid. Region 12's looked at it. TEA has seen it. They like it. They think, yeah, I mean, if you actually do those things, then you're probably going to get a heck of a lot better pretty fast. And so I think that we're playing a waiting game now, unfortunately, and that's not comfortable. It's kind of like having your brain scan, and you're waiting to find out if do I have anything wrong? And, that's tense. It is tense, but all we can do right now is wait for the commissioner to make his decision. And while we're doing that, we got, there's only one way out of this problem. You got to teach your way out of this problem. You got to teach and learn your way out of this problem. And that's what we got to stay focused on is, the teaching in the classroom and the learning that goes on in the classroom. And we're at the mercy right now of the timeline of whatever TEA decides it's going to do. I feel confident that we'll be open this year. I feel confident that we'll get better scores and we'll be open next year. I don't know the specifics of the process, but I do know that the commissioner will make a decision relatively soon, probably before. I'm pretty confident that we'll have the meeting with the commissioner before the holidays. And he'll give a decision soon because he understands that there's other appeals beyond the commissioner, and you have to have time to do that. He also understands you have people with contracts that have to be, renegotiated and done in the spring. And so there's going to be some time in this. I think we'll know soon. I don't think it's going to be the next 2 weeks, but I think it'll be the next several weeks that we'll know about our review with the commissioner. And like I said, I'm pretty confident that, look, the truth is Marlin only missed accountability this year by 5 points. So this is doable. I mean, with the changes that we put in place and the initiatives we put in place, this is doable. We can get those 5 points, and we can get more because I don't want to be close to the edge. I want more than 5 points. And we need to get, 10, 15 points so that we can, not be so close to the edge of destruction again. But my point is, we were close enough that this is an attainable, doable thing if we work hard at it.
Right. For those who don't understand how that point system works and the point system that you're talking about, can you elaborate a little more about how the state assess test scores and how they are assessed in the district? Can you talk about that, elaborate more on that point system?
Sure. I mean, it's based solely upon those state test scores. And they're changing it this year, but in the past, what all the school districts were rated on is 4 indexes, index 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you had to make index 1 or 2. You could make either one of those, and you had to make 3 and 4. Well, Marlin met 2. That's good. It made 4. That's good. It made 2 and 4 by a pretty good margin. And it missed index 3 by 5 points. So had we made that index 3 5 more points, 6 more points, we wouldn't be talking right now. I mean, we'd be out of the woods. So, and that's with, really the chief academic officers, the superintendent, really having nothing structured and nothing going on in Marlin ISD. So I think that with what we have now, we're going to get those 5 points and many more.
You guys are doing all that you can to rectify the problem. Is there anything that the community can do to help aid and assist in bringing about a solution to what our district is faced with?
There are several things. We're going to have a new reading initiative that's going to start after school. It's CEI. Has been donated recently by a company to help. We're probably going to try to open the school up a couple of hours after school and having volunteers who can come and just watch. It's a computer-based thing. You don't have to actually teach the kids, but just monitor the labs and make sure that everything stays orderly for a couple of hours. That would be helpful. Another thing that parents can do, particularly in grades K through 8, is read to your child, read with your child. Put the Xbox down for an hour and read for an hour every night. And I'm telling you, even an 8th grader, they respond to being read to. Read with your child, read to your child, and then talk about what you're reading. Well, what's this? What's happening in the story? Why did this happen? What did the author mean by this? Talk about the story. Spend some time with your child doing those things. Next thing, make sure your child's getting plenty of rest. If you're a parent, make sure they're getting plenty of rest. And I think that what we really need from the community, parents, is to be responsive. The teachers are working very hard. They're under a lot of stress. It's not fun. I'm telling you, accountability that I put in place is not fun when it's new to you. So they're on the edge. You got to support your teachers. If they call you, you need to come and help any way you can. If your principal calls you, it's your job to discipline your child. It's not the school's job to discipline your child. We don't raise children. We educate children. So the parents have to educate, have to discipline these children. So when we call and the principal calls and they need your help with that, be responsive. And I think also, as a community, we've talked about some mentoring programs. Some of our children, struggle with issues. and having people come up and volunteer to help mentor some of these children. It can be very helpful.
Where would you say the most help is needed in our school district?
K through 8 by far is where the most help in the school district is needed. High school actually met standards last year, and you got to give credit where credit is due. In the high school, that was with no principal. People like Angita Lynn, pull it out, just pulled it together by themselves with no principal, nobody telling them what to do, no help, no support. They just did it. But in K through 8 is where we had 35-40% of our kids passing some of these state exams. That means you've got 65% of your kids failing the state test. That's not good. That's got to get a lot better. At the high school, you had 60% of these kids passing. If we'd have had that in lower levels, we wouldn't have this conversation. And it can be done. If they can do it at the high school, it can be done in grades K through 8 also. It's the same community. It's the same families. It's the same children. It can be done.
I would just like to give the community assurance that we have the right person in place.
Sure. I think that starts with the school board. You have a school board that's very united. I know there's people out there, the school board this, school board that. Go back and look at the voting record on the school board. Virtually everything is unanimous. Not always unanimous, but it's usually 5-1 or 6-0. It's very united. They have a clear vision for this district. They have put in place incentives for the teachers to stay by increasing salaries. They've gone out and found a superintendent who they think will hold principals and teachers accountable and turn the school around. I think it starts there. I can tell you that I'm all about the children. I live in Marlin. I think I'm the first superintendent in a while that's lived in Marlin. My children, I have a daughter who's in Marlin High School. She's going to graduate from Marlin High School, I promise you, because she's a junior this year and she'll be a senior next year, and this school's going to be open for her. And my wife works here at the high school. She's a teacher, so we're invested in Marlin. We live in Marlin, we shop in Marlin, we go to school in Marlin. I intend to be here to make sure this problem gets solved. And I don't not a little bit, not by 5 points. I want to be away from the edge of destruction. I promise you that some of the medicine is going to be, not fun to take. It doesn't taste good, but we're going to fix this problem if we keep calm heads and stick together. We're going to do great. Sure, the commissioner's not going to look just at test scores. That's going to be the driving force. He's going to look for community support. Are you participating in the PTO organizations? The Save Our Schools meetings, we're going to have more of those town hall type of meetings where we come together and we talk about the school system. And I think we have to remain united. I think he's going to be looking for, are we tearing each other apart? Do we even want this school district here? I think he's going to be looking for that. And I think when you have 1,000 people show up at a town hall meeting, that's sending a clear message to the commissioner that people care. So I think we have to keep that up. Now I think that we need to get a little bit more united on our voice. I think that we're being a little divisive, and I understand that right now people are scared because everything's uncertain, and when people get scared, they get angry, they lash out. But at some point, that's got to give way, and that anger has got to turn into something positive. And I promise you, the commissioner has made it pretty clear in other districts. That's one thing he's going to be looking for.
It's the community support.
Community support, community unity. And we have it on the school board, but we got to get it, elsewhere in the community. We got to bring it together. This nipping at each other, finger pointing, it's not helpful. Identifying problems and solutions, that's what we need to concentrate on.